Welcome back to Life on 11, where we turn up the volume on faith and kingdom living. Today, we're going there. We're talking about the deep, often unspoken wound of church hurt. If you've ever been wounded, judged, or let down by the very people and place that promised healing and belonging, you know that sting. That pain is real, it's valid, and it has the power to shake the foundation of your faith. But here's the key truth we'll unpack. The failure of imperfect people does not negate the faithfulness of the perfect Christ. The temptation is to abandon community entirely, but we can't let the enemy use someone else's sin to steal our connection to the kingdom. This week, we're talking about forgiveness, healing our hearts, and finding a clear path forward. Let's dive in.
What's happening, dog?
What's happening, brother?
Nothing. Just chilling on a soggy fall evening.
Soggy.
It's soggy outside. It's been a beautiful fall week, though. It's been good.
Yeah, it has been.
Remember that time when we were going to take the Jeep out on a ride?
I was getting ready. I was going to ask if you were going to tell that story. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what we did?
So earlier this evening, Jeremy and I had praise team practice at church, and I had messaged him earlier today, asking me if he wanted to go on a little bit of Jeep ride, because, the fall is the best time to drive in a Jeep. This is the best time of year.
True that.
And Jeremy said yes, he would ride in the Jeep with me. So we left my house.
Whoa, not our house.
Yeah, left my house, sorry. Left my house on our way to praise team practice. Got about 5 minutes from the church, and Jeremy looks up and decides to take a little evaluation of the cloud formations and said, "It looks like it's going to rain." And you pulled up your phone.
Pulled up the radar.
Oh, yeah. It was
very green and yellow and a little bit of red and
So we decided to just make a big loop.
Yep.
We still got a Jeep ride.
Yeah, we still got a Jeep ride in. And then actually, we took another Jeep to the church.
It's true. And we were only like 5 minutes late for practice.
Yeah, my Cherokee.
Yeah. So it's always a good idea to check the weather before you take the Jeep out. Sometimes I just risk it, but tonight we weren't.
Yeah, I wasn't into risking it, especially if it was still raining when we left, which it was.
It was.
We would have been very wet.
We would have been. On our way to Texas
Inn.
Texas
oh, man.
Inn. Yeah, it was delicious.
It was good. Good. And then we stopped and got some ice cream at the old Dairy Queen.
D-Kizzle.
Yep. That was delicious.
This has been a good night.
It has been. Now we're just kicking back.
Yeah. How's your week been?
It's been okay. Yeah. Had a little bit of a couple little hiccups at work today. Kind of annoying, but
I get you.
You'll have that from time to time.
Yep. You have it on them big jobs.
That is a quote that we say all the time. You'll have that on them big jobs.
Yep. Cool.
So, but no, good.
I'm glad.
How about you?
It's been a good week so far. It's, last night I had to, I am the pastoral ethics trainer for our region.
Oh.
And so last night I did a pastoral ethics session with some ministers from our region.
Okay.
Talked about what it means. As I said at the end, I dubbed them all ethicized.
Ethicized. Did you look up and see if that's actually a word?
I'm not sure, but it is now. We did some ethicizing.
You put that in the JP dictionary.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's full of good words.
Oh, really? I'd be interested to hear some more of those.
Yeah, this is a family-appropriate podcast.
Oh, okay. That's we've said before, the after-hours content.
There you go. It's good, though, man. It's good. Yeah, we had a good day at church on Sunday, and it was real good. It was real
cool.
Good. Yeah.
Good stuff.
And communion on Sunday. It's always good to have communion.
Yeah, with the big goldfish crackers.
Well, and let me tell you something. We also shout out, if you're from the Harrisburg area, Into Him.
Oh, yeah.
The all-ladies a cappella group from JMU. Dude, they were fantastic. They were very good. I mean, I can't. Did they come last year? Yeah, I think last year.
Okay, we've had them for a couple years. Yeah, they're always great.
Yeah, but I feel like they were extra great this year.
Like me, I just love a cappella. The harmonies, I just love it.
Yeah,
especially when they throw in a little beatbox in there to add a little extra sizzle.
Yeah,
I like it. The good stuff.
So if your church is looking for some cool music, you should definitely reach out to them.
Yeah, they're good.
They were great. So speaking of church, we're kind of talking about church tonight.
We are talking about church tonight.
We are talking about what could be a very sensitive topic for some people. We're talking about church hurt.
Yep.
Or what happens when we are hurt by the church?
Sure.
Inevitably, we all either have stories or know someone who has a story about being hurt by the church.
Yep.
And unfortunately, we actually talked about this at our ethics training last night. One of the reasons why we do pastoral ethics training is to try to empower pastors to make ethical decisions so that they don't hurt people.
Sure.
Yeah. Jeremy, when you think about church hurt, what do you think about?
Well, so obviously, church hurt is a very broad term. It's not like in what I'm thinking when we talk about church hurt, it's not the church as a whole necessarily did something to hurt somebody, but the people or a person of the church who may be in a leadership position, may just be very well known, just someone at church did something to hurt you or another person. Maybe not intentionally, maybe intentionally. Who knows? Lots of different things that can happen. But the part that I always come back to is people are not perfect, no matter where you are, whether it's at work, at school, in the grocery store, and the same is true for church. I mean, that's the reason we're at church. We are all sinners. We're all admittedly sinners, and we're trying to live in community together and do better, but people are still going to mess up. Yeah. And it's tough. Church hurt is real. I've know people that have said they will never go back to church again because of something that happened. I mean, it could be many years ago.
Yeah.
It could be recent. So yeah, it's really hard. It's real. I mean, there's lots of people that have dealt with it in one way or another.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think you encapsulated it well, right? Like people mess up. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? There's no place that's different. People have a different expectation of church.
Sure.
Because, it's where people who confess Jesus all join. But, I do think, like you, I know a lot of church hurt stories. In fact, the first church that I was involved with after my home church was we did a church plant. And our kind of tagline was, it's like church only different, because we were trying to meet people who had church hurt. We knew there were a lot of people in that community that had been impacted by a few congregations, and we were trying to help those folks re-engage with the church again. I find it interesting because I would say most of the cases, not all, but most of the cases that I know of, the people who have been hurt by the church, it was accidental. No one sought out to hurt them. Like you said, there's cases where people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's cases where something was done purposefully and hurtfully and intentionally, but I'd say that's not necessarily the rule.
Yeah. I think that's the exception.
Most of it's probably accidental, and really, some people might not even know that they caused that hurt to somebody.
Oh, dude, I can tell you personally as a pastor, like there's been things that have happened with people who have attended our church, and it's been like a couple maybe months or weeks or some period of time has gone through, and I haven't seen the people, or I haven't heard from them, and maybe there's times where I'll try to reach out to the people not knowing, and they either don't answer or they're very short when they do and still don't, and then I'll hear from a loved one, a family member, a friend. They're like, oh yeah, they're upset because of this, and it's like, well, I didn't even know that. I had no idea that happened, and sometimes it's maybe something I did or it's something that the church did, and I would say pretty much every time I didn't even realize, or they didn't realize, or whoever they're upset with didn't even realize it was a thing that hurt them.
Yeah, and I can think of some stories that I've heard from people where a younger person, like teenager, adolescent, something happened with other teenagers or adolescents, and the parents didn't know about it. Really, nobody knew about it, but it was something that stuck with them that just turned them off to church. Well, these people were bullying me at church. They're supposed to be better than that. Mm-hmm. So I've heard a lot of stories about like where people as children were exposed to that. And let's be honest. I mean, kids can be cruel, and it's really hard to deal with that if you don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so I really feel for those adults now who that happened to when they were children, because I don't even feel like they've gotten a fair shake at what church is supposed to be. Like they're just turned off so much by what happened to them when they were young. Yeah, and that's hard. That's hard to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I want to go on the record very early in this conversation to say, if it is purposeful, direct, malicious behavior that has happened in the church, and unfortunately that happens, like, we have seen plenty of headline news stories about pastors who have abused the office of the pastorate. They have used the power of the pulpit to hurt people intentionally. They have abused, specifically women and children. Those things are 100% wrong and
Absolutely
need to be dealt with, right?
Yeah, no debating that.
Right. And so I want to say, like, if you're someone who has been hurt by deliberate malicious action on a part of a church member or a pastor, specifically a pastor, and from where I'm coming from, then we don't want you to feel like we are poo-pooing that. That's not what we are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's
right. I think what we're talking about is, how do you deal with I'm just going to say, sometimes we can be very petty in the things.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And we can allow some things that that maybe we do or we have done, or standards that we wouldn't hold other people to, that we will write off the church. I remember, there's a meme that makes its way around every now and then that talks about, you'll go to McDonald's 52 times. If they get your order wrong, you still go back. But if a church does one thing you don't like, you'll pack up and go. And it's like,
oh, yeah, that's
ouch.
Yeah, that hits it. You know, one thing I'm thinking of here while we're talking, I feel bad comparing church to work because it's not like a job, but you go to the church, maybe not you go to a church not because you necessarily are or want to have a personal relationship with every person there, but usually there are people there that either you have relationships with or in some way, shape, or form. But there's also going to be others that you don't know or you don't have a relationship with, and maybe your personalities clash. So that's not necessarily somebody that you would seek out outside of church or would want to hang out with.
Right.
But sometimes it turns out, you end up serving on the same committee or the same thing or whatever, teaching together in a Sunday school class. And inevitably, I mean, there are people that personalities and that stuff happens. And you're right. In a church setting, we do kind of hold it to a higher standard where everybody has to always get along and everything always has to be perfect and good. And, we're people. Sin is in the world. Sin is still in us. Mm-hmm. And we're going to fail. So we also, as each of us, need to continue to have grace and recognize that in our dealings with people at church, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think another one of the key things for me as I think about, I've been hurt by the church,
sure,
both as a minister and as a member, right? I attended the same church for the first 24 years of my life. Now I've been pastoring Mount Zion for 15 years. You're not involved in the church for that many years without getting church hurt, right? One of the things that I counsel a lot of people with, and, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that attend our church that have these stories. And one of the mistakes I think we make is we don't talk about it, specifically to the people that hurt us. There's a reason why in Matthew 18, Jesus says, if your brother sins, misses the mark, and I think sometimes, we need to say it is what it misses the mark. Then you are to go to them and talk about what happened. And I think that's partially one of the hardest things with church hurt is people don't want to talk about it.
Or they want to talk to everybody else about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's not productive either.
Absolutely.
That's true for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And because a lot of times, I'll speak as a minister from the minister's role. I think of a specific circumstance that happened not that long ago. Someone was very upset at me because I didn't visit their loved one in the hospital. I had no idea their loved one was in the hospital.
Mm.
No one ever told me. I
Yeah.
had no idea. They were in for like 3 days, and everyone assumed that somebody else told me.
Oh, yeah, that's...
And so this person was very angry at me, and I called them, and I was like, hey, we've been missing you at church. And they're like, well, I'm just really disappointed that you didn't go see this person in the hospital. I was like, when was this person in the hospital?
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's been like a month. And I said, I had no idea that person was ever in the hospital. This person didn't call you? I said, no one called me. I had no idea.
Yeah, wow,
And,
that's tough.
And they got really quiet. And I was like, I'm going to ask you, like, you know me. You've known me for a lot of years.
Yeah.
If I knew that person was in, don't you think I would have been there?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, yeah, that's what kind of caught me off guard. And so what could have happened is it could have broken my relationship with this person. It could have broken the relationship with the church.
Mm-hmm.
If either, if I would have never called to see where they, just tell them I was missing them, and if they weren't honest. And I think sometimes we forget that Satan, what's one of the, Satan says, oh, or God says in the garden, man is good. And then he directly turns around and says, oh, but it's not good for man to be alone. And I think sometimes when there's church hurt, Satan uses that to try to wedge people's relationships.
Absolutely, Satan uses that 100%.
And so sometimes the best way of addressing church hurt is just talking to the person that hurt you and trying to get to the bottom of it, because most of the time, as we kind of said, I don't think that it's intentional, and a lot of times it's just misunderstandings.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yep.
Misunderstandings and like, I mean, really, a lot of times, a lot of stories I've heard, the person who did the hurting had absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
That like, and we don't necessarily know everybody's past experiences. I mean, granted, the more we get to know somebody, the closer we get to them, the more we learn about them and their personality and their emotions and all of those things. But, you don't always know what thing might affect somebody that you really have no idea about until you do that thing, whatever it might be. And you affect them in a way that you never intended. And like you said, if they don't let you know, or if they don't talk about it,
mm-hmm.
there's no way to fix it.
Yeah.
Because nobody, they're hurt. They know why they're hurt, but you're completely clueless. But you just think that you might think it's something else that happened. You have no clue. So,
right.
So you're right. It needs to be talked about, and just get it out in the open. Like I think about when I was in elementary school. I'm not saying we need to have this program, but when I was in elementary school, I was a conflict manager. So
what a coincidence! When I was in elementary school, I was a conflict creator.
So like, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever to be like, you're basically a mediator.
Did you have a badge?
But no, I didn't have a badge, but I had a shirt.
Okay.
That really, up until I got like pretty fat, still kind of fit me. But anyway, so it was huge when I was little. So anyway, people would like submit this, like they would submit these things, like somebody stole their gummies at lunch, or whatever it was. So they had a conflict, and they had to talk their conflict out together to come to a resolution. And you were just the mediator. So like conflict resolution over time I feel like it's not very well understood by a lot of people. They want to talk to everybody else about their issues rather than just go straight to the person that may have hurt them and just try to talk it out and work it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true outside of church too, but specifically we're talking about church hurt. So yeah, I mean, really, you think about it, it should be a lot easier to talk to your church family or your church friends about something that hurt you, because I mean, you both know Jesus, and Jesus certainly wants you to work it out.
Absolutely. And it's important for us to remember, we are the body of Christ, but we are not Christ. We are not Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jesus is perfect, right? And by the way, Jesus was perfect and never sinned, and he still ticked people off at the church.
Oh, that's a good point.
The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious leaders, like,
good point.
So Jesus, just because the church fails doesn't mean that Jesus failed.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the church doesn't fail, we don't need Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have to come to this place where it's like, not that we expect the church to fail, but when it does, it probably shouldn't surprise us all that much, because in our heart of hearts, we have failed too.
Yeah.
Like
we just said, the church is made up of imperfect people.
Right.
So that's, right, wrong, or otherwise, you're going to get imperfect results.
Right. Well, and I think about, the particular person that I'm thinking about kind of had a history of hurting people in church. Again, unbeknownst to them, they were a certain kind of way.
Sure.
And I would talk to different people, and a few times someone who was hurt by this person, and every time I'd be like, can we talk to this person about this? And they wouldn't want to. They didn't want to start. And like after like the fifth or sixth person, I'm like, this person is never going to have a chance to change. Maybe you are the voice of God in their life. Maybe God needs you to say something, to say to this person, like, you hurt me, and they're, well, you can talk to them. And I'm like, it's not my thing to carry.
Yeah, that's
right?
not how it works. That's conflict management, like I said.
Right. And so I'm like, man, if four people, one person just went to this person, they were like, hey, you did this, because it was kind of a repetitive pattern, right? And I'm just like, man, how can we ever expect this person to be transformed by Jesus if nobody's willing to lovingly go to them and say, you did this, and eventually somebody did, and the person was like, oh, like I didn't realize that was an issue, like we all have blind spots, and this person's had a blind spot,
Sure.
And so, yeah, I think we have to remember that, like we have all, and the funniest thing is, for me, is sitting in somewhere to hear somebody talk about church hurt, knowing that they have hurt someone in church.
Oh yeah,
and that has happened to me quite a few times, where like this person is like, well, let me tell you what this person has done, and I'm thinking to myself like, oh, well, 6 months ago somebody was upset at you for almost the same thing.
Yeah,
and when we don't talk about it, we're not able to. And I hear it because I'm the pastor, and so people
obviously, sure.
But yeah, so we have to remember that, like, none of us are perfect, and sometimes we hold other people to standards that we don't practice.
Oh yeah,
ourselves.
for sure. So yeah, I guess so. People that might be listening who are maybe have a history of church hurt, maybe haven't been to church in 20 years because of something that happened. Let's talking specifically to them. What do they need to do? Because obviously they're probably not going to be dealing with the same people they dealt with 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, however long ago it was. If they have a history of church hurt, how do they get back into a faith community knowing that? How do they work through that, past that?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I would say is talk to the minister. From the guy sitting in the minister's seat, it helps me understand how I can be praying for someone and how I can be shepherding that person if I know that there's a history there. That's one. Two is start slow. Like it's okay to kind of wade into it a little bit, to know that you kind of have those things, and so don't be surprised if you're not hypersensitive to some of it, right? If you've been hurt before, it's easy to cut bait sooner.
Sure, yeah.
I looked up some scripture while you were talking about you weren't rambling, while you were talking about your conflict management role.
Conflict management. I didn't get paid, by the way.
Oh man,
probably owe me some back pay for that.
Back pay, yeah.
With interest,
reparations, yeah.
No, you did not.
Ephesians chapter 4 is one of the core scriptures that when I'm talking to folks about church, not just church hurt, but any kind of hurt, that I read. Listen to some of what Paul says. He says, therefore, as a prisoner for the Lord, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling of which you have been called. Okay, so that's easy to say, well, someone hurt me because they weren't walking in the manner they were to be called. right? They did something that they weren't supposed to. But watch. With all humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing one another with love, eager to maintain the unity in the spirit of the bond of peace. Paul is not talking about the people who have done right. He's talking about the people who have been hurt.
Yep.
Right? He says you should be eager to maintain the unity of the spirit. And many times we're eager to get out the door.
Sure.
Eager to say, like, all right, I'm out. Right?
And, I wonder, obviously we only know about, like, our lifetime, but I wonder if what's happening in the world has made it more realized to people. You know what I mean? Because everybody's like, no, you should do you. You should stand up to, like, you should be happy. You should not have to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's made it real easy to, like, okay, well, I'm not happy. I'm just going to move on to this.
Yep.
Or like, no, this is, look at marriages.
Yep.
I mean, churches, turn into the same thing.
The end of this chapter, 31 and 32. Let all bitterness, wrath, and anger, and clamor, and slander be put away from you, along with malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as Christ and God forgave, or as God and Christ forgave you. So the impetus is put on the one who's been wronged, really. For them to forgive. I also think, Jeremy, boy, this could get into a whole other topic.
Well, we need more topics.
We do.
Actually, we don't, but go ahead.
One of the things that I think makes this challenging is the amount of churches and the amount of fellowships that you can just kind of jump from one church to the other.
Sure.
And just avoid conflict altogether.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
You don't have to deal with relationships, because if this church hurt me, then I'll go to that church 5 miles down the road and just start the cycle all over again. And one of the practices that the church used to do, and I don't know any churches that do this now, but it used to be that if you transfer your membership between congregations, now we do like a letter of transfer, but there actually used to be like a real conversation where if somebody had left a church under a sensitive issue, the ministers would talk about it. And they'd be like, well, yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
I've heard stories from generations past. My grandfather would tell those stories about somebody would call him and say, this person's been attending my church and they want to be a member. And he would say, okay, well, let's get a cup of coffee and talk. And he would just say, like, they need to be reconciled. And those ministers would talk about that. And, maybe the first pastor would go to the person and be like, hey, we would love to have you as a member of this church, but you need to be reconciled to the brothers and sisters over there at that church.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine that?
No, I could not imagine that. I couldn't.
That's an awkward conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But that does, it makes it easier. If you don't want to, it's easier to not go to McDonald's to get your cheeseburger if there's a Burger King across the street. You're just like, well, I'll just go over there.
Sure.
And sometimes we treat church like that. It's nothing more than a business that's done something wrong to us, and so we cut them. I'm just not going to do business with that person anymore.
Yep, I'm just going to go, like you said, 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And then if they upset me, I'm going to go here.
Yeah. And it is hard, and so church hurt is real, but you don't have to carry it like baggage. There's just no need for that. And the longer Satan can get that in there and make it fester, the more unhealthy it is for the person, the more unhealthy it is for the person that hurt them, and the more unhealthy it is for the church.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it for somebody who's maybe dealt with church hurt from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, I mean, it is going to be a lot harder to work past that because it has been festering for so long, right? So like you said, take it baby steps.
I've run into people back by our church that, in the community that, they're like, well, I used to go to Mount Zion, and they tell me this horrible story or, whatever. And I'm like,
sure.
I'm literally looking at it like, that was before I was born.
Sure. Yeah.
We're talking 40 plus years ago. That you're still harboring these ill feelings about not just Mount Zion, but the church in general, Wow, crazy.
And coming back to what you read, like, it really hits to think you're the one that got hurt, but you're also the one who needs to show that grace and to want to keep the body together. So yeah, that really makes you think. And that's biblical. I mean, we're not just making that up right here. I mean, that's straight out of
the scripture,
straight out of God's word.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's hard to hear. Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, honestly, we want somebody to pay for what they did to us for whatever they did wrong. When really we need to put on our big boy pants and forgive them and work through it.
Yeah. And I would say from, the conversations I've had about and around church hurt, I've never, ever have I heard or seen someone who has been confronted about their hurt, that they hurt someone else. I've never heard someone just go, too bad. Like they're always just like, I am so, even if it was, I am so sorry that happened, and even if it was, malicious, they're Jesus has a way of convicting those people of that, and so you can't fix what you don't know.
Yeah, and, I'm a personal experience of mine. Not this wasn't necessarily related to me hurting somebody at church, but I did hurt someone. I like to joke and pick and poke fun and just like usually not hurtful. I don't think, but evidently my picking on someone did hurt them, and I was completely clueless. I had no idea. Like I was completely oblivious to it. But yeah, just finding out that I was hurting them. I mean, I felt terrible. Like I had no intention of hurting them. I thought they were laughing. They were, they thought it was funny. I thought. So yeah, I mean, just also we need to be aware of those things as well. And like, you're right. When somebody finds out that they did hurt somebody, usually it's like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I mean, I can see why now that you explain it, but
right.
I would have been clueless if nobody ever would have told me.
Oh yeah, I had one not that long ago, Jeremy, that somebody I literally had not talked to in probably 10 plus years, maybe longer, that I saw somewhere, and they were like, you probably know that I had a lot of ill will towards you, and I was like, no, actually, no, I had no idea. And they were like, yeah, and God like convicted me of it, and I just want you to know I forgive you. And I'm like, okay, and like I didn't want to like unpack the wound, so I was just like, well, thank you, I'm sorry if I hurt you, I didn't realize that was
sure,
and I was like, I'm glad that we can be okay. And like I walked away and I looked at Jess and she was like, what was that about? And I told her, I was like, I literally have no idea what happened. I don't need to know, don't need to know, and we're not going to unpack that wound. But it was just sort of like, wow, like this was it would have had to have been like 10 to 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm like, I have no idea.
Well, God went before and worked that one out.
Yeah. And so, sometimes, and that's the other side is too. We talk about how you need to talk to the person, but there's also, I think, something for like, okay, forgive the person, and sometimes it's good to talk to them. But if it's been 10, 15, 20 years, maybe it's just a you and God thing, and you're just able to be like, you know what? I forgive
for sure.
That person.
Especially if you're not like, if you don't even live in the same area anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't necessarily need to travel cross country to
or
reconcile
even to unearth thing,
Yeah.
So you can forgive someone without having to make a thing
cross country trip. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, church hurt's real, guys. We don't want to downplay it. We've all dealt with it. I guarantee you that, you've been hurt by the church. I mean, you were a pastor's kid. You probably have stories.
I have tons of stories I could tell.
Yep.
I didn't go into them tonight just because there's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, for sure.
And all that to say, like, if you go to church, if most of us follow Jesus for 50 plus years and you go to church, you're going to get hurt. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is, don't let that church hurt become a stumbling block to keep your eyes off of Jesus, but instead find a way to be Jesus in the midst of it.
Amen.
Yeah. So, well, I guess to anybody out there, if you need a good church home, there's a lot of great churches in our area. Plug back in again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great churches in our area, and none of them are perfect, Our church isn't perfect. Nowhere is perfect. But there's a bunch of faithful churches just in our area. If not, and you're from another area, find a faithful church in your area, get plugged back in, because Jesus loves you and Jesus won't fail you, and if the church does.
We aren't perfect. The church isn't perfect. But guess who is? Jesus. Yep.
Amen. Have a good night, buddy. I'll see you next time.
Same to you, man. Later.
Thank you for turning up the volume on faith and kingdom living with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for Life on 11. We can't wait to see you next time.